a little bit behind, so we're going to try and catch you up as quick as possible. So we're not going to have all the pick and bans. We're just going to have the lower pick and ban graphic. I'm still Penguin. He's still Lyric. Did I point the right direction? No, it's that way. You're over here. As we are jumping straight into this game, try and catch us up as quick as possible. And for V5, you know, it's going to be a very, very different year for them. They finished in 12th in the regular split, but coming up against LNG, who were 10th, this is a completely different roster.
Yeah, again, everyone is different on this team, and most of them coming over from the LDL, but we do have draft on our screens. Kind of interesting comps on both sides. Much like earlier aggression coming out from the side of V5 with things like the Zoe and the Volibear. So when we look at LNG, we definitely have scaling elements with both Sylas and Jinx on the field. So when I look at V5, the thing that jumps out to me is like, hey, this team wants to all in, right? You have Nautilus, you have HEcarim, you have Volibear. This seems to be running forward. How are LNG going to play around that? How are they going to peel for Jinx when, okay, you have Lee Sin Kick and Thresh? But the big things I'll be looking at is how can Sylas and Lee try to disrupt that by getting on the back line of V5?
Yeah, and you can see the bans as well. They're kind of, you know, very heavily towards those kind of solo lanes. On the top side of the map, on the side of V5, you've got the Set, the Rumble, the Renekton being taken away. And then, you know, again, on the other side, you're looking at the kind of standard, bog standard one, the first pick of the Lee Sin. So curious to see now. LNG, of course, running it back from the squad that came 10th and stayed 10th in the playoffs of spring 2021. And they'll be looking to try and just kind of push themselves a little bit further along than they were last split.
And I love it. We're just going straight onto the Rift. And, you know, before we talk about anything game-wise, I feel like the first thing we need to hit on is V5. Because fans are going to come in and be like, who are all these guys? The only face you probably recognize is Uniboy coming over from LGD. Of course, before that, he was on HQ, subbed in for PSG Talent at Worlds before, at last year's Worlds. But looking at the rest of the roster, the player I'm most excited for coming in is Kepler. He's on an LDL team called SDX. People might even remember them from our English broadcast of the Demacia Cup. I think he's a very mechanically skilled AD carry, considered one of the best AD carries in the LDL. The only thing that might be confusing is they also brought up Invincible in the top lane, who was on V5's LDL team, and he's much more known as a carry player as well.
Invincible will be on the Volibear, who can feel invincible once you get the Divine Sunderer going for him, should you decide to go that route. Quick look at the runes. It's Hail of Blades. Hail of Blades in the bot lane for Kepler on the Tristana. Pretty bog standard, so nothing really too untoward to, you know, be writing home about. And someone that we kind of talk about we talked about a lot in last season was Tarzan for LNG. This guy, you know, considered one of the best junglers in the world by, you know a lot of people on the LCK and Korean solo queue ladders and stuff, and didn't really have the big kind of impact we expected him to have, considering last, split was a jungle meta.
Yeah, definitely. I think when we came into the start of spring split, he showed like phenomenal pathing early in the split. He was pretty active helping out his laners. I think especially around the bot lane is where we'd see Tarzan put emphasis, because the Light and Lwandy are known for kind of a stronger laning phase. I think they're definitely one of the more potent bottom lanes in the LPL, as we see now, even on our screens, right? Light somehow 18 CS to Kepler's 3. Yeah, just overall, I think jungle and bot lane are the places to watch if you are an LNG fan. The big thing where we saw them struggle last split was they really didn't have a cohesive identity, right? You wouldn't see Tarzan and the laners interact all too much outside of those first few ganks.
Yeah, and we'll see now, speaking of ganks, Uniboy has found himself towards his bot side, or top side, I should say, as Tarzan is just pushing in that wave in bot. It's going to be about an 8 to 10 CS lead in favor of Light and Lwandy. And we had a lot of graphics that we wanted to talk about before the game, but obviously we're a little bit delayed, so we wanted to make sure that we got as quickly into this one as possible. But Lwandy is one of those players that we will look towards to make plays for the side of LNG if they want to be successful this split.
Definitely, and went for the death sentence, wasn't able to hit it, so not going to be able to find any potential options here. We also see PZX on the side of Victory 5 making his way down, so maybe they can find a potential play. And he's, of course, bringing out the HEcarim, which HEcarim now does go with a much more damage-focused build. After all those nerfs, they gave him a lot of buffs to his AD ratios, so we do expect to see him go with the Divine Sunderer. And right now, he is just hovering for his bot lane, making sure they can push us out safely. And if they would have overextended, he could have found a potential gank angle. But both junglers now just going to go back towards full clearing, towards their strong sides of the map, respectively.
Well, we'll see exactly how this very, very new squad of V5 can do. Of course, we talked about how a lot of their players, bar maybe Uniboy coming in from the LDL, and they've basically no more moles. So, you know, you're not going to stand them anymore. You're now a WE stan as things end up progressing. And how does that feel? How does it feel now to just betray the team that Mole was on for so long?
It feels weird. I actually bought a V5 jersey. I bought a V5 jersey in 2020, so, you know, I still have that. I think V5 will just kind of be on the back burner in my heart. They'll still be there. I think this team has an interesting system that could work, where we know when we saw Uniboy, especially with PSG, not as much when he was on LGD last split, was a lot more of this, like, heavy roaming mid laner. And, oh, we're going to see that now is LNG.
Oh, Lwandy. Swing and a miss. Will be able to get the flay down and the exhaust, but that's just not what you need. Tarzan has to flash away because he does not have access to the Ragnarok, and they committed a teleport for that. I felt a little off.
That felt really bad. Definitely a -1 coming in for the side of LNG. We saw Lwandy, right? He went for the prediction hook, just overreaching by, I'd say, quite a bit. Nice by V5 just to be able to punish for that. As, oh, speaking of punishment, Kepler is actually completely fine. Did have to blow a summoner, though.
Yep, blew the heal, so still not feeling great about that trade, and is still falling slightly behind in the CS margins. You do, of course, have Tarzan just hovering around this bot side. And actually interesting as well, because it's a Cloud Drake, it's one of the hardest Drakes to solo early, because if you do get caught, you get taken so low by its constant auto attacks. I have to stop myself as we say that. The tower has been turned off on this top side. Ale says goodbye to everybody and gets himself out, but there's a lot of pressure and a lot of money and XP he is not getting in that top side.
Yeah, he's falling really far behind now, not having the flash, so you could even potentially look for a repeat play. Now he is 6, though, so with having the Dragon's Rage, I think he should be in a bit better position if a play like that comes through. But look at PZX, he's going straight back towards the top lane.
He wants to make this one work. Will be spotted out. As you can see a replay in that bot side. That's how Kepler got caught. And his heal was used, so no kill pressure just yet on him, but definitely losing a summoner not ideal for the Tristana, who's looking to try and scale up. And a bit of an advantage for Light and Lwandy in this bot side. So far, the proactiveness has definitely felt a little bit more LNG-sided. As I say that, V5...
Oh my god. He just doesn't stop, man. He doesn't stop.
Doesn't stop as they're trying to look for this one here. As you can see, Invincible maybe trying to bait this one out. Doesn't have his Q just yet. Waiting about 3 or 4 more seconds. There it is. They're going to go in. First blood to Invincible. He is invincible. As we can see, there's the onslaught of Shadow. Good flash, though, away. Not quite able to get away, though, from the chains. And Icon able to make that one work. 1-for-1 trade overall.
Yeah, overall, even nice that if you look at the minimap, LNG aren't losing any farm either. Tarzan picking up mid-wave, Icon picking up top, so it's not too detrimental for the side of LNG. Overall, actually, with the fact that they caught both of those waves comes out even, right? You look at gold, even across the board. We're going to get a replay of this. I mean, these were just shenanigans, right? We saw PZX really looking for this play, goes with the ult into the Q, has the E as well, survives on a sliver of health, does have the Triumph to gain some health back. He did have the HEcarim ultimate to go in. Didn't matter that Volley had flash. He was going to go down regardless. And we're still going to see teams have their pressure around different sides of the map, right? I expect V5 to continue to play around their top lane because that is where Invincible is winning. And for Tarzan, just keep shadowing bot. You've already blown 1 summoner. The exhaust already back up for Lwandy as well. You can always potentially look for those flash play plays coming in. And for me, it's still the fact of like, hey, you do have scaling elements on the side of LNG. The Sylas there, the Jinx there. For V5, they're the ones who do need to be a bit more aggressive in the early game. But I also like the fact that their comp has a lot of backline access with 3 engaged champions of their own.
Yeah, plenty of opportunities, like you said. Just kind of have to capitalize on it. And again, Tarzan kind of, again, being a little bit null and void. They now know that PZX is on this Rift Herald, so you see Zoe and the Volibear with the pressure there, just able to kind of keep that one up. But LNG are not willing to let this one go for free. They are just roaming up. You can see there the bot lane is also first to roam up as well. ZYF has gone back to base, and I don't think that V5 are really in a position to kind of force this objective. They don't have it right there. They're prioritizing getting farm and money onto the Tristana.
That's the big thing, right? Is that we see that LNG rotated their bot lane to get this objective. Kepler definitely at least going to get one plate, also getting golden XP. Light's only going to be able to push out one wave, but that's going to be answered by Uniboy coming back mid. So for the side of V5, I think you feel completely comfortable with this trade. And you can even see now by the fact that they're going up in gold. And look, LNG don't even feel comfortable to keep going with this one from the fact that Invincible has that prio in the top lane.
Yeah, it feels a little bit disjointed right now from LNG. It doesn't feel like they're, you know, fully on the same page of kind of what they want to go for. They're kind of half committing, half not committing, and it just means that V5 end up kind of getting best of both worlds. They didn't lose anything in bot lane. They, in fact, probably gained a little bit of a CS kind of, you know, gained back in the CS numbers and able to pick up Rift Herald anyway. So it's not a big thing. There's Super Mega Det Rocket. It's going to stop that recall. It's all it will do, as the Rift Herald had already gone down, but does mean that LNG will finally take up the first dragon of the game.
Yeah, so at least they're going to get something in return. And we're seeing LNG a lot try to play with jungle and support, but I think the area we need to see LNG index into is mid, right? Send Tarzan mid, even if you aren't finding a kill onto Uniboy. Shadow so Icon can try and get some prio, even if you have to show, and then start shadowing towards those side lanes. You know, whether you can look to make a repeat play towards top with Sylas because you do have access to that Volibear ultimate, or you want to go bot, try to punish that harder, maybe pull out a dive, though I don't think that's as optimal now that Invincible's teleport is coming back up. So make the play top side, try and force out Invincible's TP, and then I think just start all-inning on your bot side advantage. It's all about mid-jungle for me when you have this Sylas who's been doing quite well along with the Olaf.
Well, speaking of doing quite well, LA might be in a little bit of trouble as the Invincible Volibear has to be kicked away. And the fact that he has to keep using that defensively means that those playmaking things that we saw from Doonby in our last series on the Lee Sin mid just isn't available, and it's just not possible for this Lee Sin to be able to do it. So LA just not really feeling comfortable to either go for this. And speaking of which, he's going to now pop down the ward, see that he's going to get piled on, but Tarzan is here, and they do have a TP on Icon, so there is potential for a turnaround, but don't know if they feel super comfortable going for it just yet. But as I say that, Kepler actually might be turning this one around. The exhaust actually stops like Lwandy from going down, and only the heal used, so a summoner for summoner again used in this bot side. But while that's all happening, top lane, that's a lot of gold going over to the big bear.
And the thing is, it now opens up a point on the map where Invincible can start playing around. Looks like LNG are going to try and punish him, though. They don't have confidence that they will be able to take him down. Does have ult flash. Kepler might be dead. Kepler is dead.
Kepler is dead. Light and Lwandy able to get out of that one as well. You still have flashes on pretty much everybody, so no real chance of a follow-up here from the side of V5. And that is a nice little pickup there in the bot side for the side of LNG.
Yeah, and that was an interesting play, and Icon is the one impacting the map right now, right? Pretty much everywhere we see LNG gaining advantages is because of Icon. We need to remember that he was able to gain that roam timing for the fact that Uniboy went top. So Uniboy pushed in the wave, went top, Icon's still in mid, pushes out the next wave, and it gives him the window to go for that dive.
Well, see the HEcarim, PZX just has to back himself away. There was a commitment of the Ragnarok, so Tarzan does not have that for the next few minute or so. Probably actually only about a minute considering the cooldown, but nothing ventured, nothing gained, as I say, as we see a replay in this bot side. And I think it's just straight up Icon just forcing the issue, knowing he can take the Nautilus ult.
And the big thing is, right, Kepler was already low HP from the previous pseudo dive we saw LNG try to pull off. Sure, Lwandy got chunked low in that situation, but it didn't really end up mattering with the fact that Kepler wasn't able to get a base off in time and did just kind of have to sit under tower to keep catching waves. So LNG abused the window that was given to them. Sure, V5 picked up first turret top, but gold is still even, so LNG going toe-to-toe. And neither of these teams being I'd say crazy proactive. V5 are definitely being proactive. We've seen PZX loves just sitting around lanes and waiting for plays.
Stolen.
Oh, he got it!
Oh, that ultimate is silly how it interacts with neutral monsters, but nevertheless,
Hey,
it was
finally capped. You know?
Yeah, it's true. They did cap it out, but that's, you know, the cap isn't big enough for a blue buff, sadly, as they moving forward towards this. But does deny a little bit of a camp, means Uniboy can't spam out those paddle stars and portal jumps as much as he would probably like. It gives Icon a little bit of, you know, priority in this mid lane as well.
He's definitely feeling extremely strong with relative to the point in the game. He's working his way towards that Everfrost where he's really going to be a menace, and even now, Uniboy has to respect his all-in potential so much. And now we're at the point that we were talking about before, right? It's like hovering around your bot side, abusing that advantage. Sadly, they were never able to do that first step of trying to shut Invincible down, or at least force out a TP and stop that sequence of events. But hey, V5 did a good job of just continuously overloading the top side of the map to make that extremely hard for LNG, and now the turret trade is even across the board, and we're going to see LNG get to a situation where they're going to have a more comfortable lane allocation, right? You're going to have Icon in a side lane, Jinx is going to be able to catch waves in mid, to where Uniboy not really able to go sit in a side lane as Zoe, so side pressure will be in favor of LNG going into a lot of these objectives, and we're going to see how they are able to utilize that going forward.
They're able to get going for them. Bit of a slow start to this game. 15 minutes in, gold is dead even, or about 500 gold lead in favor of LNG. So again, nothing too huge. They've got themselves a Cloud Drake in their back pocket, as the Mountain Drake will spawn in the next couple of seconds. But it is V5 who are the ones in position. TP on the bot side going to be used there by Icon, but don't feel like LNG are really in a position to fight this one. And they're going to let that one go. Just about no steal here for you, Light. Does mean, though, that Ale gets a lot of free time to take down this top tier 1.
You know, I like their confidence in saying, hey, we stole blue with it. We can do it with Dragon. But I think this was a smart trade by LNG when we've hit on, hey, you know, Sylas, Jinx, you feel fine waiting this out. It's like, okay, take the gold trade across the map, because now the gold is completely swapped. Now you're the team up over 1k gold, and Kepler, I think, is dead 100% here.
Yeah, maybe not, though. Icon might have to force himself away, as Ale does end up getting himself in with the teleport, has to safeguard back off of that. Invincible flashes forward, gets kicked back, gets knocked away, and everyone just kind of backs off. But while that was happening, you commit so many people to that bot side to defend, means that mid lane is pretty much all done taken. Uniboy must be very careful, knows there's no Super Mega Death Rocket for at least a couple of seconds, as Ale and Invincible still trying to see if they can take each other on.
I want to highlight that the timing of that play was really nice, to where Kepler flashed as PZX was ulting, so Icon not even able to really try and follow up on that if he would have wanted to, right? If he wanted to go for maybe like a Nuggery style play of, you know, burst out Kepler before the HEcarim's able to interact with me, so nice by him. He's able to survive. Clearly, I'm wrong every time I think a player is going to die, and LNG not having to dedicate too many resources to the bottom side of the map are going to be able to get the herald for the fact that V5 had to send members to try to answer that play.
See, now Invincible still being the focus of some of this aggression here from LNG. They've got themselves two very tanky and damagey boys in this bot side. The Sonic Wave will land, but here comes the ults here on top of that from V5 to try to turn this one around. Ale, not really in a great position, is ticking down, but flashes over the wall nicely to get himself out. Super Mega Death Rocket just keep another little bit of damage. Triple kill for Ale, and this Lee Sin is online.
And between the two of PZX and Invincible, they just didn't have enough damage. Ale able to get out with, I think, what originally was the safeguard, and then Icon just able to buy so much time with the sustain coming out from his W. Light's using his ultimate like it's a basic ability, throwing it off cooldown just to help his teammates in the fights in any situation that arises with, you know, objective steals. And I mean, this went from, hey, you know, V5 are the ones trying to force proactive plays, to like, hey, Tarzan, since he was able to get so much farm early on, has an advantage. Ale now is back in the game and has a lead over his counterpart, and LNG are just winning everywhere. So, you know, we're going to go into the replay. Like you said, they want to catch Invincible out. He ults away, but they're able to keep the fight going. It is a numbers disadvantage now, but still not a ton of damage between them with only ZYF and PZX here. Ale able to get away, Sylas able to buy so much time, has a sustain coming in from his W, Super Mega Death Rocket layering as well. Just overall, I'd say it's nice when we said that LNG don't do a very good job of like comboing together on the map, that they're not only comboing on the map in like pairs of like 2 and 3, we're also seeing members across the map pair up with them.
Yeah, they're just kind of all synergizing very, very nicely in V5. It's gone from a very close game in terms of gold score to about a 4,000 gold lead for the side of LNG. You can see now they're trying to get some stuff going for them, but this Lee Sin will have 2 items very soon. You've got the Everfrost, double Gore Drinker, makes it so difficult for anyone to take down Tarzan or Ale. And this Jinx on 2 items is just a monster. Light is just so big at the moment that it becomes that big question mark of, even if you do get your quote-unquote perfect fight, like, does it even matter? Because the damage is just really difficult to deal with.
And it's across the board, right? Not only the damage, but the survivability coming in. You have Sylas jumping in. We highlighted the sustain coming out from his W. You have 2 Gore Drinker users in Tarzan and Ale. This composition is going to be able to buy a lot of time. And when you're up against a composition that is very burst reliant in Victory 5s, that's going to be enough to get you across the finish line in these extended fights.
Well, speaking of extended fights, we are going to see one start off straight away. It's going to be the Zhonya's for the Nautilus. As we can see now, the stolen ultimate there forces Kepler to get completely away, only put in about 2 auto attacks, and they're still going for this one. They will get the Drowsy, and there's going to be a lot of damage done onto Icon. He goes a bit too close to the sun and gets burnt down to a crisp, but it's still a 1-for-1 trade, and pressure still very much in favor of LNG.
And it's one of those things that even had one member hovered with him, he would have been fine, right? The other members of V5 would have had to back off at the potential threat. But LNG's members, I think, were stealing away camps, making their way down. So not synchronized with Icon in that moment. Still, this is going to be one of those kills where I don't think it means too much. He's back up on the Rift in 13 seconds, has TP available. He should easily, the LNG should be easily able to turn onto this dragon.
Thought for a second there V5 were maybe going to go try and take a sneaky Baron attempt at 21 minutes, but they think the better of it. They don't want to overcommit to something that might not actually bear any fruits. If anything, might poison them. As we can see, Tarzan taking a triple bubble and a paddle star to the face and gets himself back out, but it's so difficult right now. You got from, you know, especially when you look at Ale actually picking up the new improved Black Cleaver. It does an awful lot more armor shred now, gets you an awful lot better stats. So if he's able to kind of get on top of the Volibear, who also has gone with the new Black Cleaver, the stat shredding is going to be so important for Light and for Kepler. So again, very much focusing on these AD carries being the major damage dealers, but you can't sneeze at you know, anyone on the side of LNG not being able to take you down.
Definitely not, and a bit surprised to see the Black Cleaver come out. It's not an item we've been seeing too much of in solo queue built on Volibear. I've seen it a little bit on Lee Sin, but speaking of Volibear, Invincible might go down once again.
Yeah, not really a lot of place for him to go, and that shred really doing wonders there to take down his health bar. But V5 are here, and he will survive. Didn't even have to use the ultimate or his flash, but Ghost was used there by PZX, so not going to have that extra little bit of movement or damage onto his trample. As I say that, there's going to be a good hook there. Lwandy, though, this is not the hook you wanted, as he's going to have to go golden himself. TP going to be coming in. It's going to be Icon who gets himself the onslaught of shadows. Light picks up the first kill onto the HEcarim, and now they kind of keep pushing forward. LNG, they're feeling good. They're feeling confident. They're feeling like they're going to want to take this game pretty damn soon. They've got a minion wave. They got a Jinx. They got everything they could want, and they might look for a little bit more. Hook misses, but Uniboy cannot stay. It's going to be the inhibitor falling after the inhibitor turret, and this has all gone really poorly for V5.
Yeah, and it just came out of nowhere, which, let's add the caveat that completely new team. These players have not played together before, most of them being brought up from the LDL. Everyone except Uniboy, and sure, ZYF did have a very short stint with V5 last year when we remember that they were going through all the roster chaos in the COVID time, right, where a lot of people weren't able to travel, so he has a very little bit of LPL experience, but new players to the LPL stage, new players working together, new coaching staff behind them as well. Victory 5 have picked up Domo, who was WE's coach last split, and a very famed coach in the LMS in PCS for being able to raise up rookie squads. So if there's any coach that can help this team grow, it'll definitely be him. But LNG at least showing they are still of a similar stature of last split, where they can definitely take down the teams you would expect to be under their player caliber.
Yeah, a bit of a gatekeeper, as it turns out, to a lot of the teams below them. And really not really changing much here, as we can see Icon now going in. Everfrost doesn't really land, but they're going to have the kick there. Ale finally gets himself a 4th kill. And this has just kind of become a little bit too easy. Uniboy's dead. Swing and a miss there from the ultimate of the Jinx, but it does not matter, as they're going to get himself another kill onto the Nautilus. Kepler is by himself, all alone, nowhere to go, and the Baron is on the table. LNG just dotting their I's and crossing their T's.
Yeah, now for V5, they're just going to have to keep picking up farm across the map. It's one thing to say where, you know, in some of these situations, like earlier during the Dragon when they moved up towards Baron to get the vision down, some of the, these are the correct plays, right? It's like, hey, we can't fight the enemy team, so we just have to look elsewhere on the map. The problem is, LNG are so far ahead at this point, there's nothing you're able to take on the map. You're just able to keep continuously catching waves and wait till LNG are pushing on your base, and you have to look for those fights. So V5 doing the best to funnel gold onto their carries. The problem is, with how far ahead Jinx and everyone on the side of LNG is, I don't think Kepler has any time to get to a point where he will be able to dish out any damage. Also, Penguin, not a big fan of Cleaver or Volibear.
No, you don't think it's the new meta?
You know, there might be something I'm missing, which, you know, there's a replay here. This happened, but I feel like just indexing into more tank stats with the front line you have to be would make more sense, going towards a Randuin's Omen or the... Ooh, actually, Uniboy's dead. Force of Nature. That's what I was thinking of. Maybe the fact that he's the only one with the advantage and he's feeling like, hey, I need to get ahead more with, you know, more damage dealing items is why he opted into this. But, yeah, you know, LNG also going to look for the final push.
Yeah, also, I think just, you know, when you're looking at the team of LNG, they're not exactly armor stacking. You know, the Shred isn't exceptional for your team. Yes, it does a little bit, I'm not going to deny that, but it's not going to be bringing you all the damage or extra kind of stats in the world. As we can see with this Baron buff push, they are going to be able to jump in. The Stormbringer comes down. It's going to be the Nautilus to drop first. Invincible is almost dead. He has to go back to the fountain to try and become invincible. Icon still sitting on top of his onslaught of shadows to use as his leisure, but at 26.5 minutes, this game one is going to be done, and that is going to be LNG with a convincing game one win.
Good to see by them coming out to where, right, they survived the early game coming out from the side of V5, especially in that top lane where Invincible was able to find a big advantage, especially with help coming out from the jungle. But on the opposite end, LNG's bot lane was winning the whole time. We saw even from level 1, we came into the game a bit late, and we didn't have our observer on bot lane, but they were able to force V5's bot lane off the first wave, stack it into them, and they weren't really able to play the game. And I think Icon did a good job of like, hey, I see Uniboy move to top. I now have a window to impact the map. And he was very efficient at using those windows to find kills to accelerate him on the Sylas.
Yeah, it just felt, again, like a bog standard setup from the side of LNG. They knew what they needed to do. They did it. And unfortunately for V5, it just really didn't really come together. I thought Invincible looked pretty good. They were trying to be proactive with the HEcarim in the early stages. They were trying to make some stuff work, but it just didn't come out to them in that regard. And again, want to put the caveat, this team is brand new to the LPL. Like, these guys have not been playing with each other very long at all. They, you know, a couple of months max. So you're looking at that versus someone like LNG, who've literally been playing since the start of the year and are running back the exact same roster into the summer split. It's going to be that kind of, you know, there's going to be teething issues. There's going to be those moments or two that you're just not able to kind of, you know, set up yourself.
Definitely. You know, this is a team with time maybe surprise us. I don't want to count them out for game 2 either. They showed up kind of toe-to-toe in the early game. But, you know, unsurprisingly, the MVP of that game was Icon, which is a player that I think a lot of people doubt. Again, I don't think he's lived up to his old reputation of being like a star, potential star years in the past. But he once again showed, hey, he's able to find these high-impact moments on the map that get LNG advantages and push them over these teams that they were above in the standings.
Yeah, and again, it's kind of these small little things that we need to see from players like Icon, Tarzan, another one, of course, Ale, who had a very good game in that one as well, just to build them to kind of, push towards that playoff mark. 10th is the minimum. That's what they got last time. They'll want to try and improve that, maybe get themselves up to, 8th or 7th maybe in the standings. Depends on how everything kind of goes. But good start so far for the man in the mid lane on the Sylas. Can't really go wrong with a decent performance like that.
No, and now it's going to be a question of, how does he show up in next game? Who steps up on the side of LNG to carry that game? Because, again, when you look across LNG's roster, definitely has proficient players in multiple roles, and who on V5 can go toe-to-toe with them. So we now have seen Invincible in the laning phase, definitely a legit player, especially with the fact that, in the jungle role, V5 are accelerating, even Uniboy, playing towards that top lane and trying to put resources into him. So yeah, I want to see how V5 adapts going into the next game.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. LNG off to a great start in this best of 3, but game 2 is right around the corner. We're going to throw it to a quick break, and when we return,